A complete summary of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Hook and intro. Hello everyone and welcome to our channel, where we delve deep into the timeless stories that shape our understanding of the human condition. Today we embark on a journey into a literary masterpiece that has charmed readers for over 2 centuries, a novel that has become synonymous with wit, romance, and incisive social commentary. We are talking, of course, about Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. This novel is not just a beloved romance, it is a profound exploration of how our initial judgments, our deeply held biases, and even our own sense of self-worth can either build bridges or erect impenetrable walls between us and genuine connection. Imagine a world where your entire future, your financial security, and your social standing hinged almost entirely on one thing: marriage. For women in late 18th and early 19th century England, this was not merely a romantic notion, but a stark economic reality. This is the world Jane Austen invites us into, a world where a woman's intelligence, her spirit, and her character were often overshadowed by her fortune or lack thereof. Pride and Prejudice masterfully brings this world to life, allowing us to witness the struggles and triumphs of characters navigating a society obsessed with status and appearances. At its heart, Pride and Prejudice is the story of Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy, two individuals whose paths collide and intertwine in a series of misunderstandings, revelations, and profound personal growth. Elizabeth, with her keen mind and independent spirit, initially harbors a strong prejudice against Darcy, perceiving him as arrogant and aloof. Darcy, in turn, struggles with his pride, which stems from his high social standing and wealth, causing him to look down upon Elizabeth's less distinguished connections. Their journey is one of dismantling these titular flaws, learning to see beyond superficial impressions, and ultimately discovering a love founded on mutual respect and genuine understanding. But why does this story, set in a time so different from our own, continue to captivate us today? Why are there countless adaptations, retellings, and discussions about this particular novel? Because the core human experiences it explores are eternal. We all form first impressions, often hastily. We all grapple with our own pride and the prejudices we hold, whether conscious or unconscious. We all seek authentic connections in a world often dominated by appearances and societal pressures. Pride and Prejudice offers us a mirror, reflecting our own tendencies to judge, to misinterpret, and to err. It teaches us the invaluable lesson that true understanding often requires humility, introspection, and a willingness to revise our deepest convictions. Today, we will embark on a complete and detailed summary of this iconic novel, guiding you through its intricate plot, introducing you to its unforgettable characters, and unearthing the profound insights that Jane Austen so brilliantly embedded within its pages. Whether you have read the book countless times or are encountering it for the first time, this video promises to deepen your appreciation for Austen's genius and spark new reflections on love, judgment, and personal growth. Stay with us as we uncover the timeless wisdom woven into the fabric of Pride and Prejudice. Context and background. To truly appreciate the genius of Pride and Prejudice, we must first understand the world in which Jane Austen lived and wrote. Born in 1775, Austen was a keen observer of the English landed gentry, the social class to which her own family belonged, albeit at its lower echelons. She spent most of her life in relative seclusion in rural England, allowing her to gain an intimate knowledge of the domestic lives, social customs, and economic realities that shaped the lives of women of her time. Pride and Prejudice was initially drafted in the late 1790s under the title First Impressions, but it was extensively revised and finally published in 1813. This period, known as the Regency era, roughly 1811 to 1820, was characterized by a rigid social hierarchy where one's birth, wealth, and connections dictated virtually every aspect of life, from marriage prospects to daily interactions. The novel is set in the tranquil countryside of Hertfordshire, where we are introduced to the Bennet family. Mr. Bennet, a gentleman of modest income, resides at Longbourn with his somewhat foolish wife, Mrs. Bennet, and their 5 unmarried daughters, Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, Kitty, and Lydia. The financial situation of the Bennet family is precarious. Due to an archaic legal principle called entailment, their estate Longbourn is entailed away to a distant male cousin, Mr. Collins, meaning it cannot be inherited by any of their daughters. This makes the prospect of a good marriage not just desirable for the Bennet sisters, but an absolute economic necessity. For women of their class, marriage was often the only path to financial security and social standing, as career opportunities were virtually non-existent. This societal pressure is a constant, underlying tension throughout the narrative. The story begins with the exciting news that a wealthy and amiable young man, Mr. Charles Bingley, has leased Netherfield Park, a grand estate in their neighborhood. Mrs. Bennet, whose business of her life was to get her daughters married, is immediately consumed with the idea of one of her daughters capturing Mr. Bingley's affection. This initial setup perfectly illustrates the opening line of the novel, a famously ironic statement. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. This line immediately establishes the satirical tone and the central concern with marriage as an economic transaction rather than solely a romantic ideal. Mr. Bingley arrives accompanied by his two sisters, Miss Caroline Bingley and Mrs. Louisa Hurst, and his exceptionally proud and even wealthier friend, Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy. The entire neighborhood is abuzz with the prospect of new gentlemen. The first social event, the Meryton Assembly Ball, serves as the stage for the crucial initial interactions that will drive the plot. Bingley is immediately smitten with the eldest Bennet daughter, Jane, a young woman of exquisite beauty and gentle disposition. Their mutual attraction is evident and straightforward. However, the contrast between Bingley and Darcy is stark. Darcy's immense wealth and distinguished bearing are overshadowed by his aloofness and arrogance. He refuses to dance with many of the local ladies, including Elizabeth Bennet, famously remarking that she is tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt me. This slight, overheard by Elizabeth, instantly cements her negative opinion of him, laying the foundation for her prejudice. The plot then develops through a series of social calls, dinners, and small gatherings, during which Jane and Bingley's affection grows steadily. Elizabeth, however, finds herself repeatedly clashing with Darcy, reinforcing her initial impression of him as proud and disagreeable. Her prejudice is further fueled by the arrival of the militia in Meryton, among them a charming officer named Mr. George Wickham. Wickham quickly befriends Elizabeth and, feigning distress, spins a tale of injustice, claiming that Darcy defrauded him of an inheritance left by Darcy's father. Elizabeth, already predisposed to dislike Darcy, readily believes Wickham's account, solidifying her negative judgment and intensifying her animosity towards Darcy. Meanwhile, the odious Mr. Collins, the heir to Longbourn, makes his appearance. He is a pompous, obsequious clergyman, eager to marry one of the Bennet daughters out of a perceived duty and at the urging of his wealthy patroness, Lady Catherine de Bourgh. After Mrs. Bennet makes it clear that Jane is soon to be engaged to Bingley, Mr. Collins sets his sights on Elizabeth. In a scene brimming with Austen's characteristic irony, Mr. Collins proposes to Elizabeth with a preposterous, self-serving speech, citing practical reasons rather than affection. Elizabeth, valuing love and respect over financial security, firmly rejects him, much to her mother's dismay and her father's quiet approval. In a shocking turn of events, Mr. Collins swiftly proposes to Elizabeth's sensible but pragmatic friend, Charlotte Lucas, who accepts. Charlotte, acutely aware of her own limited prospects and the economic realities for unmarried women, chooses a comfortable home over the elusive ideal of romantic love. Her decision serves as a stark contrast to Elizabeth's ideals and highlights the societal pressures that shaped women's choices. This development further complicates Elizabeth's understanding of love, marriage, and personal happiness, making her question the different paths women must take to secure their futures. As the social season progresses, Bingley and his party abruptly leave Netherfield for London, much to the heartbreak of Jane. Elizabeth suspects Darcy's influence, believing he conspired with Bingley's sisters to separate the loving couple due to Jane's lower social status. This perceived interference further fuels Elizabeth's resentment towards Darcy. The emotional turmoil that Jane experiences, coupled with Elizabeth's conviction of Darcy's culpability, strengthens Elizabeth's resolve to hold onto her negative judgment of him. The scene is set for a dramatic confrontation where the deep-seated pride and prejudice of both protagonists will inevitably clash, paving the way for profound revelations and personal growth. In core narrative and analysis, the narrative intensifies when Elizabeth travels to visit Charlotte Lucas, now Mrs. Collins, at Hunsford Rectory in Kent. This visit places Elizabeth in close proximity to Lady Catherine de Bourgh, Mr. Darcy's formidable and arrogant aunt, whose estate, Rosings Park, dominates the local society. Lady Catherine embodies the extreme pride of the aristocracy, constantly reminding others of their social inferiority and her own immense consequence. Her intrusive questions and condescending advice grate on Elizabeth's independent spirit, yet Elizabeth, always quick-witted, refuses to be intimidated, often responding with polite defiance. During Elizabeth's stay, Mr. Darcy frequently visits Rosings and consequently Hunsford. Their interactions remain fraught with tension, a mix of awkward encounters and sharp exchanges. Unexpectedly, Darcy pays Elizabeth a visit at the rectory and, to her astonishment, proposes marriage. This is one of the most pivotal and dramatic scenes in the novel. Darcy, with immense pride, confesses his ardent love, but also meticulously details his struggles against his feelings due to Elizabeth's inferior family connections and lack of fortune. His proposal is delivered with such condescension that Elizabeth is not only offended but enraged. Elizabeth's rejection is furious and unequivocal. She confronts him with his perceived arrogance, his alleged cruelty to Wickham, and his role in separating Jane and Bingley. Her words are sharp, fueled by her deep-seated prejudice and the accumulation of slights and misunderstandings. Darcy, equally affronted by her passionate rejection and her accusations, is shocked and hurt. This confrontation is the climax of their initial animosity, bringing their titular flaws of pride and prejudice to a head. It forces both characters to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves and each other. The very next day, Darcy intercepts Elizabeth during her morning walk and hands her a long, detailed letter. This letter is a masterstroke of plot development and character revelation. In it, Darcy explains his actions and sheds light on the truth behind the accusations against him. He reveals Wickham's true character, a manipulative opportunist who squandered the inheritance left to him by Darcy's father, attempted to elope with Darcy's younger sister Georgiana for her fortune, and consistently tried to extort money from the Darcy family. This revelation completely shatters Elizabeth's positive impression of Wickham. Darcy's letter also clarifies his interference with Jane and Bingley. He admits to having misjudged Jane's affections, believing her to be indifferent to Bingley and observing that the Bennet family's lack of decorum, particularly Mrs. Bennet's boisterousness and the younger sister's flirtatiousness, made their connections undesirable. His motive, he insists, was to protect his friend from an unhappy marriage. This detailed explanation forces Elizabeth into profound introspection. Till this moment I never knew myself, she reflects, realizing the extent of her own prejudice and the fallibility of her judgment. This moment marks a significant turning point in her character development, leading her to question her own pride and her discernment. After returning home, Elizabeth embarks on a tour of Derbyshire with her aunt and uncle, the Gardeners. Their travels unexpectedly lead them to Pemberley, Mr. Darcy's magnificent estate. Believing Darcy to be absent, Elizabeth agrees to tour the house and grounds. What she sees profoundly impacts her. Pemberley is not just grand, it is tasteful, beautifully maintained, and reflects a sense of order and benevolent stewardship. The housekeeper's glowing account of Darcy's character, describing him as a kind and generous master and brother, further softens Elizabeth's prejudice. She begins to see a man far different from the proud, arrogant figure she had initially imagined. A surprising encounter occurs when Darcy unexpectedly arrives home while Elizabeth is still touring Pemberley. Their interaction is marked by a newfound politeness and civility on Darcy's part and a growing embarrassment on Elizabeth's as she recalls her harsh rejection and the accusations she hurled at him. Darcy's demeanor is entirely changed. He is amiable, welcoming, and even introduces Elizabeth to his beloved younger sister, Georgiana, who is shy but sweet. This series of events at Pemberley serves as a powerful symbol of Darcy's true character, revealing the inherent goodness and warmth beneath his reserved exterior. It allows Elizabeth to finally see him with a clear, unprejudiced eye, fostering a burgeoning admiration. However, this period of burgeoning understanding is dramatically interrupted by devastating news. Lydia, Elizabeth's youngest and most imprudent sister, has eloped with Mr. Wickham. This is a monumental scandal, threatening to ruin the entire Bennet family's reputation and jeopardizing the marriage prospects of all the other sisters. Elopement without marriage was an unthinkable disgrace in Regency society, and the potential for social ostracism is immense. Elizabeth is heartbroken and horrified, blaming herself for not having exposed Wickham's true character earlier. The family is in an uproar, Mrs. Bennet is hysterical, and Mr. Bennet is filled with regret and despair. In a desperate attempt to resolve the crisis, Mr. Gardiner travels to London. To everyone's immense relief and surprise, Lydia and Wickham are found, and Wickham agrees to marry Lydia. However, the terms are suspiciously lenient. Wickham agrees to a small annual income, and Lydia is given a modest sum, supposedly from Mr. Gardiner. The family believes Mr. Gardiner footed the bill. Elizabeth later learns the true, astonishing details from her aunt. It was, in fact, Mr. Darcy who located Wickham and Lydia, and at great personal expense and sacrifice, he arranged their marriage, paid off Wickham's enormous debts, and secured his commission in the army. Darcy's actions were entirely discreet and driven by his profound love for Elizabeth, his desire to save her family from ruin, and his sense of responsibility for having failed to expose Wickham earlier. This revelation utterly transforms Elizabeth's feelings for Darcy. She recognizes the depth of his character, his unwavering integrity, and the immense love he holds for her, demonstrated through a selfless act that went against all his previous aristocratic pride. This is a moment of profound humility and gratitude for Elizabeth, shattering the last vestiges of her prejudice. She now sees him as a truly honorable and magnanimous man. This act not only saves her family but redeems Darcy in her eyes, proving his worth far beyond wealth and status. With the crisis resolved, Bingley and Darcy return to Netherfield. Bingley, free from Darcy's earlier influence and his sister's interference, renews his courtship of Jane. This time, their love story unfolds without obstacles, leading to their joyous engagement. Jane's gentle nature and Bingley's amiable disposition make them a perfectly matched, if less complicated, couple compared to Elizabeth and Darcy. Their union represents a simpler, more immediate kind of love, yet one that still required overcoming external interference. However, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, having heard rumors of an impending engagement between Elizabeth and Darcy, makes an unannounced and furious visit to Longbourn. She demands that Elizabeth promise never to marry Darcy, citing Elizabeth's inferior connections as an insurmountable barrier. Lady Catherine embodies aristocratic snobbery and an unyielding pride in her family's status. Elizabeth, with characteristic spirit and dignity, refuses to make such a promise, asserting her right to choose her own husband. Her defiance, ironically, gives Darcy hope as he learns of it through Lady Catherine's indignant report. He realizes that Elizabeth's refusal to be intimidated by his powerful aunt indicates a change in her feelings towards him. This incident paves the way for the novel's final, emotionally resonant proposal. Darcy, encouraged by Lady Catherine's report, proposes to Elizabeth for a second time. This time, his proposal is delivered with genuine humility, expressing his unreserved love and respect for her. He has shed his pride, acknowledging his past mistakes and valuing her character above all else. Elizabeth, having overcome her prejudice and now deeply in love with him, joyfully accepts. Their engagement is a triumph of mutual understanding, personal growth, and love over societal expectations and individual flaws. It symbolizes a partnership built on intellectual compatibility, profound respect, and a deep, true affection. The novel concludes with Elizabeth and Darcy and Jane and Bingley happily married. The union of Elizabeth and Darcy in particular transcends the limitations of social class and initial misjudgments, proving that true love can blossom even in the most challenging circumstances. Their story is a powerful testament to the transformative power of self-awareness and the courage to admit one's errors. They both learn that pride relates more to our opinion of ourselves, vanity to what we would have others think of us, and that prejudice blinds us from loving others and pride blinds us from being loved by others. Their journey teaches them and us that genuine connection requires open hearts and minds, a willingness to see beyond superficialities, and the humility to grow. Deep insight and reflection, the enduring appeal of Pride and Prejudice lies not just in its engaging plot and witty dialogue, but in its profound philosophical and humanistic implications that continue to resonate in our modern world. The novel delves into fundamental questions about how we perceive others, the nature of happiness, and the extent to which we are shaped by our societal environment versus our individual will. It challenges us to look beyond the surface, to question our first impressions, and to actively combat the biases that blind us. One of the most significant modern applications of Pride and Prejudice is its timeless lesson on overcoming biases. In our interconnected yet often polarized world, where social media and curated online personas dominate our interactions, the novel serves as a powerful cautionary tale against snap judgments. We are constantly forming opinions based on limited information, much like Elizabeth initially judged Darcy based on his haughty demeanor and Wickham's deceitful stories. For example, consider the ease with which we cancel individuals online based on a single tweet or a decontextualized quote. This mirrors Elizabeth's quick condemnation of Darcy without seeking further evidence. Moreover, the novel speaks volumes about navigating social pressures and the pursuit of authenticity. While the specific class structures of Regency England have evolved, the dynamics of social status, wealth, and influence remain pertinent. Today, young people face immense pressure regarding career choices, financial stability, and even relationship milestones. The pressure to marry well for security, as seen with Charlotte Lucas, finds its contemporary parallel in the societal expectation to achieve a certain career path, own specific brands, or present a perfect life on social media. Many individuals feel compelled to compromise their true desires to meet these external benchmarks, echoing the sacrifices women of Austen's era often had to make. The emphasis on critical thinking is another vital takeaway. Elizabeth's journey highlights the necessity of critically evaluating information and challenging initial impressions. Darcy's letter, a crucial piece of evidence, forces her to re-examine her narrative and question Wickham's credibility, ultimately leading to her moment of profound self-awareness. Till this moment I never knew myself. In an age of widespread misinformation and algorithmic echo chambers, the ability to discern truth, to question our own assumptions, and to seek out multiple perspectives is more crucial than ever. For example, fact-checking news stories or actively seeking diverse viewpoints on complex issues are modern manifestations of Elizabeth's intellectual awakening. Finally, Pride and Prejudice offers profound insights into authenticity in relationships. Austen's championing of marriage based on genuine affection, mutual respect, and intellectual compatibility over superficial attraction or financial gain continues to resonate. In a world where fleeting connections and online dating often prioritize curated appearances, the enduring love story of Elizabeth and Darcy reminds us that true intimacy is built on understanding, empathy, and the willingness to see and accept each other's flaws. Their journey of mutual growth and forgiveness sets a timeless standard for healthy relationships. For instance, couples today who prioritize deep conversations and shared values over material possessions or public display are living out the essence of Austen's ideal. Let's ponder some questions that Pride and Prejudice continues to provoke. Question on first impressions. How reliable are your first impressions of people, and what external factors most strongly influence them? Are you more likely to trust charm or quiet integrity? Question on pride and humility. In what situations do you find your own pride or self-assurance preventing you from seeing a situation or person clearly? How can one cultivate humility without sacrificing self-respect? Question on societal expectations. What societal pressures do you face today regarding your life choices, career, relationships, lifestyle? And how do you navigate the tension between these expectations and your authentic desires? Question on communication. The lack of open communication leads to significant misunderstandings in the novel. Can you recall instances in your own life where honest, albeit difficult, communication could have prevented conflict or deepened a relationship? Question on forgiveness and growth. Elizabeth and Darcy both had to forgive each other's past behaviors and their own misjudgments. What role does forgiveness, both of others and of oneself, play in personal growth and healthy relationships? Question on wealth and happiness. The novel constantly juxtaposes wealth with happiness. To what extent do you believe financial security genuinely contributes to happiness, and at what point do other factors like love, purpose, or community become more significant? Question on modern adaptations. If Pride and Prejudice were set in today's world, what modern social media phenomena or cultural trends would replace the balls, letters, and gossip of Regency England in driving the plot and revealing character? Question on defining success. What defines a successful life or marriage in your view? Is it public recognition, financial achievement, personal contentment, or the quality of one's relationships? These questions invite us to connect Austen's 19th century world with our own, demonstrating that while the settings and customs may change, the fundamental human quest for understanding, love, and self-awareness remains eternally relevant. Outro Pride and Prejudice is far more than a simple love story. It is a meticulously crafted societal mirror, reflecting our perpetual struggles with judgment, ego, and the pursuit of genuine connection. Jane Austen's genius lies in her ability to weave profound psychological insights and sharp social commentary into a narrative that remains utterly captivating. Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy's journey teaches us that true love is not about flawless individuals, but about two people willing to shed their pride and overcome their prejudices, to truly see and respect one another for who they are, flaws and all. Their story is a powerful testament to the transformative power of self-awareness and humility. It reminds us that our initial impressions, no matter how strong, are often incomplete and flawed, and that real understanding requires patience, introspection, and an open heart. This novel implores us to continually question our own biases, to look beyond superficial appearances, and to strive for authentic connections grounded in mutual respect and genuine affection. If Pride and Prejudice has sparked your interest in the nuanced world of Jane Austen and the timeless themes she explored, we highly recommend delving into her other remarkable works. You might enjoy Sense and Sensibility, which explores the balance between reason and emotion through the lives of two sisters, Elinor and Marion Dashwood, and their contrasting approaches to love and life. Or consider Emma, a witty and insightful tale about a well-meaning but meddlesome young woman who delights in matchmaking, only to discover her own profound misjudgments. Beyond Austen, you might also be fascinated by the philosophical underpinnings of social dynamics in works like Middlemarch by George Eliot, which offers an expansive look at the interconnected lives within a small English town, delving into ambition, idealism, and the constraints of society. Or, if you're drawn to the exploration of moral character and societal critique in a different cultural context, Consider Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, a sweeping epic that contrasts societal expectations with passionate love, revealing the complex moral landscapes of 19th century Russia. These works, much like Pride and Prejudice, invite us to ponder the eternal questions of human nature, societal influence, and the pursuit of meaning. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Pride and Prejudice. We hope this journey has illuminated the brilliance of Jane Austen and encouraged you to reflect on your own experiences with pride, prejudice, and the profound human desire for true connection. May we all strive to be a little more like Elizabeth Bennet in her capacity for growth, and a little more like Darcy in his willingness to humble himself for love. Until next time, keep exploring, and keep questioning, and keep Pride and Prejudice, Beyond Romance, Marriage, Class, and Austen's Enduring Critique. Hook and intro welcome discerning minds and curious souls to a journey back in time, not merely to witness a love story, but to unravel the intricate tapestry of a society that shaped it. Have you ever wondered what marriage truly meant in a world where love was often secondary to ledger books and social standing? What if the grand pronouncements of affection were just as much about securing a comfortable future as they were about matters of the heart? Today, we delve into Jane Austen's timeless masterpiece, Pride and Prejudice, to explore its biting social commentary, its astute observations on class, and its enduring message about finding genuine connection in a world obsessed with appearances. At its core, Pride and Prejudice is far more than a simple romance. It is a profound critique of 19th century English society, where the institution of marriage served as a crucial economic and social transaction, particularly for women. In an era when options for female independence were virtually non-existent, securing a good match was not merely desirable. It was often a matter of survival, dictating one's financial security, social respectability, and even daily comfort. Austen, with her characteristic wit and keen observation, invites us to look beyond the elegant balls and witty banter, revealing the often harsh realities beneath the glittering surface. The title itself, Pride and Prejudice, hints at the profound obstacles to true understanding and happiness. These are not just flaws in character, but reflections of a deeply stratified society where individuals were judged by their birth, their wealth, and their connections. Mr. Darcy's initial arrogance, born of his aristocratic pride, clashed with Elizabeth Bennet's quick judgment and prejudice, stemming from her independent spirit and disdain for snobbery. Their journey of overcoming these ingrained biases becomes a powerful metaphor for society's larger struggle to see beyond superficial distinctions and recognize true worth. In this video, we will dissect how Austen meticulously portrays the rigid class structure of Regency England, demonstrating how it dictated every aspect of social interaction, from seating arrangements at dinner to the very possibility of a romantic union. We will explore the economic imperatives that drove women into marriages of convenience, often at the cost of personal happiness, and how Austen subtly champions a different ideal, a marriage founded on mutual respect, intellectual compatibility, and genuine affection. This is a story that, despite being set 2 centuries ago, continues to resonate profoundly with our modern dilemmas about love, relationships, and the pressures of societal expectations. By the end of our discussion, you will not only have a deeper appreciation for the intricate plot and memorable characters of Pride and Prejudice, but also a clearer understanding of the sharp social commentary that underpins its enduring appeal. You will see how Austen, far from being a mere romantic novelist, was a shrewd observer and a subtle critic of her era, whose insights into human nature and societal dynamics remain remarkably relevant today. Prepare to challenge your own assumptions about love, class, and the pursuit of happiness. Context and background. To truly appreciate the genius of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, we must first immerse ourselves in the world she meticulously crafted. Regency England. This period, roughly spanning from 1811 to 1820, was a fascinating time of transition, caught between the old aristocratic order and the burgeoning industrial age. It was a society defined by a strict social hierarchy, where one's birth, land ownership, and inherited wealth dictated their status, opportunities, and even the company they kept. At the pinnacle of this society were the aristocracy, often possessing vast estates and ancient titles. Below them were the landed gentry, a class to which the Bennet family belonged. While respectable, the gentry's financial stability could be precarious, as vividly demonstrated by the Bennet situation. Further down were professionals, merchants, and those engaged in trade who, despite potentially accumulating significant wealth, often lacked the inherited prestige of the gentry. This intricate system meant that social mobility was severely limited, and crossing class lines, particularly through marriage, was a monumental challenge, often met with suspicion and disapproval. For women in this era, the economic realities were particularly harsh. With virtually no avenues for independent income or professional careers, their primary route to financial security and social respectability was through marriage. A woman's education often focused on accomplishments like needlework, music, and drawing, designed to make her an attractive prospect in the marriage market, rather than to foster intellectual independence. Moreover, inheritance laws such as the infamous entailment of the Bennet estate meant that property often passed exclusively to male heirs, leaving daughters dependent on advantageous marriages to secure their future. This legal framework created immense pressure on families with multiple daughters like the Bennets to find suitable husbands. Jane Austen herself was a woman of the gentry class, living a relatively modest life as one of several daughters. Born in 1775 and living until 1817, she keenly observed the social dynamics, the intricate rituals of courtship, and the economic pressures faced by women of her time. Her personal experiences, though not directly autobiographical in her novels, deeply informed her nuanced portrayals of female characters navigating a restrictive society. She understood the delicate balance between personal desire and societal expectation, and her work often critiques these limitations with subtle irony and sharp wit. Now let us turn to the story of Pride and Prejudice itself. The novel introduces us to the Bennet family residing at Longbourn in Hertfordshire. Mr. Bennet is a rather detached, sarcastic gentleman whose estate, unfortunately, is entailed and will pass to a distant male relative, Mr. Collins, upon his death. This leaves his 5 daughters Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, Catherine, Kitty, and Lydia in a precarious financial situation, dependent on marrying well. Mrs. Bennet, their mother, is consumed by the single goal of finding husbands for her daughters, often displaying poor judgment and social impropriety in her desperate pursuit. The arrival of the wealthy and amiable Mr. Bingley at nearby Netherfield Park electrifies the neighborhood, particularly Mrs. Bennet. He is accompanied by his proud and aristocratic friend Mr. Darcy and his 2 snobbish sisters, Caroline and Louisa. At the first public assembly, Mr. Bingley is immediately attracted to the gentle and beautiful eldest Bennet daughter Jane, sparking a promising romance. However, Mr. Darcy, with his immense wealth and haughty demeanor, immediately makes an unfavorable impression. He famously declares Elizabeth Bennet tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt me, a remark that instantly ignites Elizabeth's sharp intellect and her prejudice against him. The plot thickens with the arrival of Mr. Collins, the insufferable cousin who is set to inherit Longbourn. Pompous and sycophantic, he proposes to Elizabeth largely out of a sense of duty, under the patronage of the formidable Lady Catherine de Bourgh, Mr. Darcy's aunt. Elizabeth, despite the financial security such a match would offer, firmly rejects him, refusing to marry a man she cannot respect or love. This act of defiance underscores her independent spirit and her refusal to compromise her values for social gain. In a stark contrast, Elizabeth's sensible and pragmatic friend, Charlotte Lucas, accepts Mr. Collins's subsequent proposal. Charlotte, at 27 and without a fortune, understands the harsh realities of her situation, stating candidly, "I am not romantic, you know, I never was, I ask only a comfortable home." Her marriage, though devoid of love, provides her with security and a respectable establishment, illustrating the difficult compromises many women were forced to make in that era. Meanwhile, a dashing militia officer, Mr. Wickham, arrives in Meryton. With his charming manners, he quickly wins the affections of the Bennet sisters, especially Elizabeth, to whom he fabricates a tale of injustice suffered at the hands of Mr. Darcy. Elizabeth, already prejudiced against Darcy, readily believes Wickham's story, further cementing her negative opinion of Darcy. This demonstrates the danger of judging on first impressions and persuasive rhetoric. As Jane's romance with Mr. Bingley progresses, it is abruptly interrupted when Bingley unexpectedly departs Netherfield, seemingly losing interest. Elizabeth suspects Mr. Darcy and Bingley's sisters are behind the separation, interfering due to Jane's lower social status. This perceived interference, along with Wickham's tales, fuels Elizabeth's growing resentment towards Darcy. The narrative takes a dramatic turn when, during a visit to Mr. Collins and Charlotte, Elizabeth encounters Mr. Darcy again. To her astonishment, he proposes, albeit in a highly condescending manner, detailing her social inferiority and the unsuitability of her connections. Elizabeth, outraged by his arrogance and his perceived role in Jane's unhappiness, vehemently rejects him. This climactic confrontation forces both characters to acknowledge their deeply ingrained flaws, Darcy his pride and Elizabeth her prejudice. After her scorching rejection, Darcy delivers a lengthy letter to Elizabeth. This letter serves as a crucial narrative device, unraveling the truth about Wickham's deceitful character and his attempts to elope with Darcy's young sister for her fortune. It also explains Darcy's well-intentioned, though perhaps misguided, interference in Jane and Bingley's relationship, motivated by a concern for Bingley's happiness and Jane's perceived indifference. The letter forces Elizabeth into a profound period of self-reflection, leading her to realize her own prejudice and the errors of her hasty judgments. The story culminates with the scandal of Lydia's elopement with Wickham, a reckless act that threatens to ruin the entire Bennet family's reputation and the marital prospects of all the daughters. Mr. Darcy, unbeknownst to Elizabeth, intervenes discreetly, locating the couple and arranging for their marriage, thereby salvaging the family's honor at considerable personal and financial cost. This act of selflessness, revealed much later, profoundly changes Elizabeth's perception of Darcy, solidifying his true character. Eventually, Bingley returns to Netherfield and he and Jane are happily united. And finally, after overcoming their initial misunderstandings and undergoing significant personal growth, Elizabeth and Darcy acknowledge their love, culminating in their eventual marriage, a union built on mutual respect and genuine affection. Core narrative and analysis, the heart of Pride and Prejudice beats with the incessant rhythm of the 19th century marriage market. Jane Austen masterfully illustrates how, for women of her era, marriage was rarely a simple matter of love. It was a paramount social and economic imperative. The opening line, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife," drips with irony, immediately setting the tone for this transactional reality. It wasn't just wealthy men in want of a wife, but society at large, especially families with unmarried daughters, desperately in want of such matches. Consider Mrs. Bennet, whose entire existence seems to revolve around marrying off her 5 daughters. Her almost frantic pursuit of eligible bachelors, her exclamations of delight at the prospect of a wealthy suitor like Mr. Bingley, and her often embarrassing social blunders all underscore the immense pressure she feels. For her, a daughter's beauty is not so beautiful for nothing, but rather a valuable asset in securing an advantageous establishment. This relentless focus, though often comedic, highlights the stark reality that without independent means, marriage was the sole path to financial stability and social respectability for her girls. The most poignant illustration of marriage as a practical necessity comes through Charlotte Lucas. At 27, she is considered past her prime for marriage, and without a significant fortune, her options are dire. Her decision to marry the pompous and foolish Mr. Collins, a man she finds neither sensible nor agreeable, is a stark, unromantic compromise. Her declaration, "I am not romantic, I never was, I ask only a comfortable home," is not a sign of moral failing, but a pragmatic acknowledgement of her limited choices within the confines of her society. Austen presents Charlotte's choice not with condemnation, but with a clear-eyed realism that forces us to confront the harsh realities faced by many women. Austen's critique extends deeply into the rigid class consciousness and snobbery that permeated Regency England. The novel meticulously details an intricate social hierarchy where individuals were constantly judged by their birth, their wealth, and their connections. Lady Catherine de Bourgh, Mr. Darcy's formidable aunt, embodies the extreme of this aristocratic hauteur. Her imperious pronouncements, her interrogations of Elizabeth about her family's income and connections, and her belief that her social superiority entitles her to dictate the lives of others, reveal a character blinded by her own elevated status. Her attempt to forbid Elizabeth from marrying Darcy is a direct challenge to social mobility and personal choice, rooted in an unshakable belief that rank is rank and must not be diluted. This class-based prejudice is also evident in characters like the Bingley sisters, Caroline and Louisa. Despite their brothers' geniality and wealth, they constantly display social climbing anxieties and snobbish disdain for the Bennets' lower social standing and perceived lack of propriety. They actively discourage Mr. Bingley's affection for Jane, believing her family to be without fortune, connection, or even any distinguished name, and therefore unsuitable. Their actions highlight how entrenched class biases could interfere with genuine affection and happiness. Mr. Darcy's initial pride is deeply intertwined with his class consciousness. His initial proposal to Elizabeth is a perfect storm of arrogance and condescension, where he paradoxically declares his love while simultaneously cataloging her social disadvantages. The inferiority of your rank, the inferiority of your connections. He struggles against his feelings, considering them a degrading entanglement for a man of his standing. This initial pride is not just a personal flaw, but a product of the societal system that instilled in him a belief in his inherent superiority based on birth and wealth. Elizabeth Bennet, on the other hand, embodies prejudice. Her initial strong negative impression of Darcy is fueled by his aloof demeanor, his perceived snobbery, and most significantly by the fabricated tales of injustice spun by the charming but deceitful Mr. Wickham. Wickham, a master manipulator, exploits Elizabeth's existing biases against Darcy, making her readily believe his false narrative. Her prejudice blinds her to Darcy's true character and his genuine actions, leading her to make hasty and often incorrect judgments based on surface appearances and second-hand gossip. The interplay of their pride and prejudice creates the central conflict of the novel and forms the core of Austen's subtle social critique. Both characters must embark on a journey of self-discovery, forced to confront their own biases and reevaluate their initial impressions. Darcy's pivotal letter to Elizabeth following her scathing rejection of his first proposal is a turning point. It meticulously details Wickham's true character, his opportunistic nature, and his attempts to elope with Darcy's young sister for her fortune. It also explains Darcy's well-intentioned, though perhaps overbearing, interference in Jane and Bingley's courtship, revealing his concern for Bingley's happiness and his misjudgment of Jane's seemingly indifferent affections. This letter acts as a mirror for Elizabeth. It shatters her preconceived notions and forces her to acknowledge her own errors in judgment, leading to the profound realization, "Till this moment I never knew myself." She recognizes how her pride in her own discernment and her eagerness to condemn Darcy, fueled by Wickham's charm, had led her astray. This moment of humility and self-awareness is crucial to her growth, transforming her prejudice into a more nuanced understanding. Darcy's transformation is equally significant. His pride is gradually dismantled through Elizabeth's fearless rebukes, his own self-reflection, and ultimately his selfless act of rescuing Lydia Bennet from scandal. Lydia's reckless elopement with Wickham, driven by superficial attraction and a lack of moral guidance, threatened to ruin the entire Bennet family's reputation and the marital prospects of all the daughters. Darcy's discreet intervention, arranging their marriage at considerable personal and financial cost, demonstrates a profound shift. He sacrifices his pride and reputation for Elizabeth's family's honor, showcasing a genuine affection and a sense of responsibility that transcends his former class-based arrogance. This act reveals a man of integrity and depth, rather than merely a man of wealth and status. Through Elizabeth and Darcy's evolving relationship, Austen champions an ideal of companionate marriage. This is a union based not on financial expediency, social status, or superficial attraction, but on mutual respect, intellectual compatibility, and genuine affection. Their journey is one of mutual understanding, where both protagonists learn to look beyond external appearances and societal labels to recognize each other's true character and merits. Their spirited debates, their witty exchanges, and their eventual deep understanding demonstrate a partnership of equals, a stark contrast to the transactional nature of many contemporary unions. This ideal is further contrasted with other relationships in the novel. While Jane Bennet and Mr. Bingley's love is sweet and genuine, it lacks the intellectual depth and fiery spirit of Elizabeth and Darcy's. Their relationship, though affectionate, is almost too straightforward, lacking the transformative power of overcoming significant personal flaws. On the other hand, the disastrous marriage of Lydia and Wickham, founded on fleeting passion and deceit, serves as a cautionary tale, illustrating the perils of marrying without sense, character, or genuine esteem. Austen's use of symbolism further enriches her critique. Mr. Darcy's grand estate, Pemberley, initially represents his immense wealth and social standing. However, when Elizabeth visits Pemberley, her perception of him shifts dramatically. The tasteful grandeur of the house, its beautiful natural surroundings, and the respectful admiration of his staff reveal a more amiable and responsible side of Darcy. Pemberley becomes a symbol of his true character, meticulously managed and respected, allowing Elizabeth to see beyond her initial prejudices and recognize his inherent goodness and responsible stewardship. This visit is a pivotal moment of revelation, moving Elizabeth beyond her superficial judgments. Letters and correspondence also serve as crucial narrative devices, acting as conduits for truth and catalysts for introspection. Darcy's letter is the most obvious example, but other letters, such as those concerning Lydia's elopement, provide vital information and propel the plot forward. They allow characters to reveal hidden motives, correct misunderstandings, and engage in more direct communication than formal social interactions often permit. Finally, Austen's narrative voice, characterized by subtle irony and free indirect discourse, is central to her social commentary. She guides the reader's understanding, often highlighting the absurdity or hypocrisy of characters' actions and motivations without overt moralizing. Her witty observations allow her to expose societal follies and prejudices, prompting the reader to critically examine the values of her characters and, by extension, her society. This narrative sophistication allows her critique to be both sharp and subtly subversive, embedding her message within the seemingly lighthearted narrative of courtship and marriage. Deep insight and reflection, the enduring appeal of Pride and Prejudice lies not just in its charming love story, but in its profound philosophical and humanistic implications that transcend the Regency era and resonate deeply with contemporary society. Austen's exploration of marriage, class, and individual integrity continues to prompt crucial questions about what constitutes true happiness and worth in our own lives. One of the most striking modern applications of Austen's work is its continued critique of materialism and social status in relationships. While 19th-century women sought an establishment for financial security, today's individuals often face pressures to partner with someone who offers perceived stability, a high-flying career, or an impressive social media persona. Just as Mrs. Bennet obsessed over Mr. Bingley's $5,000 a year, modern dating culture can sometimes prioritize income, job title, or Instagram follower count over genuine connection and shared values. For instance, think of reality TV shows where contestants explicitly seek partners based on their wealth or social standing, or online dating profiles that prominently feature luxury cars and exotic travel. These scenarios echo the transactional nature of marriage Austen critiqued, albeit with different superficial markers. The novel's exploration of prejudice and first impressions is timeless. In our hyper-connected, fast-paced world, we are constantly making snap judgments based on limited information, whether it's scrolling through social media feeds, conducting online research, or interacting briefly in professional settings. Elizabeth's initial misjudgment of Darcy, fueled by Wickham's charm and her own biases, serves as a powerful cautionary tale against relying on superficial appearances or second-hand information. This is particularly relevant in the age of viral content and echo chambers, where initial impressions can quickly solidify into unshakable prejudices, making it challenging to revise our views even when presented with contradictory evidence. Furthermore, Pride and Prejudice offers profound insights into individual agency and navigating societal expectations. Elizabeth Bennet's refusal to marry Mr. Collins, despite the immense societal pressure and the financial security it would offer, is a powerful act of defiance. It champions the importance of personal integrity and the courage to pursue authentic happiness, even if it means challenging conventional wisdom. In a world where career paths, lifestyle choices, and even relationship milestones are often dictated by external pressures or trending norms, Elizabeth's journey encourages us to reflect on our own values and make choices that align with our true selves, rather than simply conforming to what is expected. This can be seen in young people choosing unconventional careers despite family pressure, or individuals prioritizing personal well-being over societal benchmarks of success. The novel also illuminates the subtle dynamics of social hierarchies and inequality. While the overt class system of 19th century England has evolved, contemporary societies still grapple with issues of social stratification, wealth inequality, and the impact of socioeconomic status on opportunities and perceptions. Lady Catherine de Bourgh's arrogance and the Bingley sisters' snobbery resonate with persistent attitudes of elitism and the often invisible barriers that still exist between different social groups, whether based on wealth, education, or cultural capital. For example, discussions around old money versus new money, or the implicit biases in hiring practices based on educational institutions or social networks, reflect the enduring influence of perceived rank and connections. Ultimately, Pride and Prejudice teaches us the timeless lesson of self-awareness and personal growth. Both Elizabeth and Darcy undergo significant transformations, learning to confront their own flaws and biases. Darcy sheds his pride, recognizing Elizabeth's worth beyond her social standing, while Elizabeth overcomes her prejudice, realizing her own fallibility. This journey underscores the importance of introspection, the humility to admit errors in judgment, and the continuous effort required to understand oneself and others more deeply. It's a call to intellectual humility, reminding us that true wisdom comes from a willingness to reevaluate our perceptions and grow beyond our initial, often flawed judgments. Now, let us pause and reflect on some questions that Pride and Prejudice continues to provoke in our own lives. How do our modern societal pressures, perhaps from social media or economic instability, shape our romantic choices in ways similar to 19th century economic imperatives? In what ways do pride, perhaps in our own intelligence or achievements, and prejudice, based on superficial information, still blind us in our personal and professional relationships today? What does true worth mean in our society, and how do we ensure we value character and integrity over wealth and status? When is it important to defy societal expectations for the sake of individual happiness and authenticity? And what are the potential consequences of such defiance? How can we cultivate greater self-awareness and intellectual humility to overcome our own ingrained biases and build more meaningful connections with others? Are happy endings in relationships truly about transcending all external factors, or do practical considerations still play a significant, often unspoken, role in long-term satisfaction? What lessons can we draw from Elizabeth Bennet's fierce independence in navigating the complex world of relationships and societal pressures? Outro, as we conclude our exploration of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, we are left with a powerful and enduring message. It is a testament to the idea that genuine happiness, particularly in matters of the heart, stems from overcoming our own internal biases and societal prejudices, and from recognizing the true worth of individuals beyond their social standing or material possessions. Austen's masterful storytelling reveals that while external circumstances and societal pressures are undeniable forces, the capacity for self-reflection, personal growth, and an unwavering commitment to integrity are ultimately what lead to authentic connection and lasting fulfillment. The novel remains a brilliant social critique, a vivid snapshot of 19th century English society, and a timeless guide to understanding human nature. Its lessons about the intricate dance between love, money, and class continue to echo in our modern lives, inviting us to examine our own judgments, our own aspirations, and the true foundations of our most cherished relationships. If this journey through Austen's world has sparked your curiosity, I invite you to delve deeper into these fascinating themes. Consider exploring other works by Jane Austen. Dive into Sense and Sensibility, which further explores the balance between reason and emotion in matters of love and finance, or Emma, a brilliant study of social class, matchmaking, and self-delusion. Each offers a unique lens into her profound understanding of human nature and societal dynamics. The History of Women's Rights and Property Laws, understanding the evolution of legal and social rights for women, particularly regarding inheritance and financial independence, provides crucial context for the choices and limitations faced by characters like the Bennet sisters. This historical context illuminates the radical nature of Elizabeth Bennet's independent spirit. The sociological concept of social mobility. Explore how social hierarchies have evolved and persisted across different cultures and eras, and how the pursuit of status and wealth continues to influence relationships in contemporary society. This offers a broader framework for analyzing Austen's critique of class. Modern romantic comedies and their Austenian roots. Many contemporary romantic comedies borrow heavily from Austen's marriage plot structure and character archetypes, often reflecting modern takes on the challenges of finding love amidst societal pressures. Examining these connections reveals Austen's lasting legacy on popular culture. Thank you for joining me on this illuminating exploration of Pride and Prejudice. May you, like Elizabeth and Darcy, find the courage to confront your own pride and prejudice and discover the profound beauty of true understanding and authentic connection. Until next time, keep reading, keep questioning, and keep exploring the depths of the human experience. Pride and Prejudice, Why Jane Austen's Classic Endures Today. Hook and intro. Hello everyone and welcome to our channel. Have you ever been so convinced of someone's character only to realize later that your first impression was entirely, beautifully wrong, or perhaps you felt the weight of societal expectations pushing you towards a path you weren't sure was truly yours? These are universal human experiences, dilemmas that have echoed across centuries. From the grand ballrooms of 19th century England to the scrolling feeds of our modern lives. Today, we embark on a journey into the heart of one of English literature's most beloved and enduring masterpieces, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. More than just a charming love story, this novel is a profound exploration of human nature, a witty critique of society, and a timeless guide to self-discovery. We're going to uncover precisely why this novel, penned over 2 centuries ago, remains a cornerstone of literary education and a popular favorite, captivating new generations with its sparkle and wisdom. At its core, Pride and Prejudice asks us to consider the powerful, often deceptive roles that pride and prejudice play in our lives. How do our preconceived notions blind us to truth? How does our own arrogance prevent us from forming genuine connections? And in a world filled with social pressures and expectations, how do we find the courage to forge our own path, to seek a love based on mutual respect and understanding rather than mere convenience or status? These are the central questions that Austen masterfully unpacks through the lives of her unforgettable characters. In this video, we will delve into the literary brilliance that elevates Pride and Prejudice to its classic status, Austen's unparalleled wit, her groundbreaking narrative techniques, and her astute social commentary. But we'll also go beyond the academic analysis to explore the elements that ensure its perennial popularity, the relatable characters, the compelling romance, and the timeless lessons that continue to resonate with us today, even as our social landscapes have dramatically changed. By the end, you'll understand why Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy's journey from initial animosity to profound love is not just a tale for the ages, but a mirror reflecting our own struggles and triumphs in the quest for authentic connection. So settle in, perhaps with a cup of tea, and let's explore the enduring magic of Pride and Prejudice. This story offers us not just an escape into a bygone era, but a chance to reflect on our own biases, our own values, and the true meaning of happiness in a world that constantly bombards us with superficial judgments. It teaches us the profound importance of looking beyond the surface, of challenging our own assumptions, and of recognizing the inherent worth in every individual, regardless of their social standing or outward demeanor. Pride and Prejudice is a timeless lesson in empathy, self-correction, and the enduring power of love to overcome even the most formidable of barriers. Context and background: to truly appreciate Pride and Prejudice, we must first immerse ourselves in the world that Jane Austen so meticulously brought to life, Regency England. Born in 1775, Jane Austen was herself a member of the gentry class, though of more modest means than many of the characters she depicted. Her father was a clergyman, and her family life, while intellectually stimulating, was also acutely aware of the economic realities facing women of her time. Austen never married, and her observations from within this social sphere gave her unparalleled insight into the customs, anxieties, and hidden desires that shaped the lives of those around her. She completed Pride and Prejudice, originally titled First Impressions, between 1796 and 1797, but it was not published until 1813. The Regency era, roughly spanning the early 19th century, 1811 to 1820, though Austen's work often covers a broader period around this, was a time of strict social hierarchy. Society was stratified by birth, land ownership, and inherited wealth. The landed gentry, a class below the aristocracy but above the burgeoning middle class, were the focus of much of Austen's work. For women of this class, opportunities for independent life were severely limited. They could not typically inherit property due to laws like entailment, which directed estates to male heirs, pursue professions, or control their own finances. Therefore, marriage was not merely a romantic ideal. It was the primary, often the only, means of securing financial stability, social standing, and a comfortable future. This societal backdrop is crucial to understanding the motivations of characters like Mrs. Bennet, who is driven to near frenzy by the need to marry off her 5 daughters. The stakes were incredibly high for families like the Bennets, whose estate, Longbourn, was entailed away from the female line, meaning it would pass to a distant male cousin, Mr. Collins, upon Mr. Bennet's death. This precarious financial situation forms the engine of much of the plot and the anxieties of the characters. Austen wrote during a burgeoning period for the novel as a literary form. While sometimes viewed as a frivolous genre compared to poetry or nonfiction, novels were gaining popularity, especially among women. Austen's work distinguished itself from the more sentimental or Gothic novels of her time by offering a more realistic, psychologically astute, and subtly satirical portrayal of social life. Her novels are often classified as novels of manners. meticulously depicting the customs, conventions, and moral codes of a particular class and era. Her precision, wit, and narrative innovations would solidify her place in literary history. Now let's turn to the captivating story of Pride and Prejudice itself. The story begins in the small village of Meryton, Hertfordshire, with the arrival of a wealthy, amiable young gentleman named Mr. Charles Bingley, who takes up residence at the nearby estate of Netherfield Park. His arrival sends the neighborhood, particularly the Bennet family, into a flutter. Mrs. Bennet, whose sole ambition in life is to see her 5 daughters married, is overjoyed at the prospect. The Bennet family consists of Mr. Bennet, a somewhat detached but witty patriarch, and Mrs. Bennet, whose nerves and singular focus on marriage often make her a source of embarrassment. Their 5 daughters are Jane, the eldest, beautiful and gentle; Elizabeth, intelligent, witty, and independent; Mary, bookish and pedantic; Catherine, Kitty, easily influenced; and Lydia, the youngest, flirtatious and imprudent. At the first public assembly, a ball, the local society is introduced to Mr. Bingley and his party, which includes his 2 sisters, Miss Bingley and Mrs. Hurst, and his very wealthy, strikingly handsome but aloof friend, Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy. Mr. Bingley is immediately admired for his pleasant manners and open disposition, and he takes an immediate liking to the beautiful Jane Bennet. However, Mr. Darcy, despite his impressive fortune, is perceived as arrogant and proud. He refuses to dance with anyone outside his immediate party, notably making a slighting remark about Elizabeth, saying she is tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt me. This remark immediately earns Elizabeth strong prejudice against him. Over the following weeks, Jane and Bingley grow closer, much to Mrs. Bennet's delight. Elizabeth, however, finds herself continually clashing with Mr. Darcy, engaging in witty verbal sparring that reveals their intellectual equality but deep mutual disdain. Darcy, despite himself, finds himself drawn to Elizabeth's lively mind and independent spirit, qualities he rarely encounters in his own social circle, though he fights against this attraction due to her lower social standing and the embarrassing behavior of her family. During this time, a new character arrives, Mr. William Collins, a pompous and obsequious clergyman who is the heir to the Bennet estate through entailment. He intends to marry one of the Bennet daughters to make amends for inheriting their property. He first proposes to Jane, but Mrs. Bennet quickly steers him toward Elizabeth, assuring him Jane is already taken. Mr. Collins's proposal to Elizabeth is a cringeworthy display of his self-importance and utter lack of understanding of her character. He enumerates his reasons for marrying, none of which involve affection. Elizabeth unequivocally rejects him, much to her mother's fury but her father's quiet approval. Distraught by Elizabeth's rejection, Mr. Collins swiftly proposes to Elizabeth's best friend, Charlotte Lucas, a practical young woman of 27 who fears spinsterhood and values security over romantic love. Charlotte accepts, making a pragmatic choice for an establishment. Her marriage provides a stark contrast to Elizabeth's ideals and highlights the limited options available to women of the era. The village also introduces Mr. George Wickham, a charming militia officer who immediately captivates Elizabeth. He tells her a fabricated story of how Mr. Darcy, his godfather's son, cruelly defrauded him of an inheritance. Elizabeth, already prejudiced against Darcy, readily believes Wickham's account, solidifying her negative opinion of Darcy. Darcy, meanwhile, expresses his disapproval of Wickham's character to Elizabeth, further cementing her conviction that Darcy is an arrogant, unjust man. However, a sudden turn of events occurs when Bingley abruptly leaves Netherfield for London without proposing to Jane, and shows no sign of returning. Jane is heartbroken, and Elizabeth suspects Darcy and Miss Bingley are behind the separation, believing them to be snobs who consider the Bennet family beneath them. This reinforces Elizabeth's prejudice against Darcy. Later, Elizabeth visits Charlotte at Hunsford Parsonage, where Mr. Collins serves as rector for Lady Catherine de Bourgh, Mr. Darcy's formidable and aristocratic aunt. During this visit, Elizabeth frequently encounters Darcy, who is staying at Rosings Park, Lady Catherine's grand estate. Despite their continued verbal sparring, Darcy unexpectedly proposes to Elizabeth. His proposal, however, is delivered with shocking condescension, as he emphasizes her family's inferior connections and the great sacrifice he is making to overcome his social objections. Elizabeth, incensed by his arrogance and still believing Wickham's story and blaming Darcy for Jane's heartbreak, vehemently rejects his proposal, accusing him of cruelty, pride, and interfering in Jane and Bingley's relationship. The scene is a dramatic clash of their ingrained biases. The next day, Darcy gives Elizabeth a long, detailed letter. In it, he explains his actions. He reveals that Wickham is a deceitful scoundrel who squandered his inheritance, attempted to elope with Darcy's 15-year-old sister Georgiana for her fortune, and fabricated the story of being wronged by Darcy. Darcy also explains that he did indeed interfere with Jane and Bingley's budding romance, but only because he believed Jane's affections for Bingley were not as strong as Bingley's for her, and he wanted to protect his friend from what he perceived as a potentially disadvantageous match due to the Bennet family's vulgar behavior. This letter is a pivotal turning point. Elizabeth is forced to confront her own blindness, partiality, prejudice, absurdity. She realizes she has been utterly wrong about both Darcy and Wickham, and her self-reflection marks the true beginning of her personal growth and her changing perception of Darcy. Later, Elizabeth goes on a tour with her aunt and uncle, the Gardiners, and they visit Pemberley, Darcy's magnificent estate, believing he is away. However, Darcy unexpectedly arrives. Seeing him in his natural environment, interacting graciously with his staff, and hearing glowing testimonials about his character from his housekeeper further softens Elizabeth's prejudice. Darcy, in turn, is genuinely surprised and pleased to see Elizabeth, and his demeanor is much warmer and more amiable than before. He introduces her to his sister, Georgiana, and treats her relatives, the Gardiners, with unexpected politeness, defying Elizabeth's preconceived notions of his snobbery. Just as a tentative new understanding begins to form between them, news arrives that Lydia has eloped with Wickham, bringing disgrace upon the entire Bennet family. This scandal threatens to ruin the reputation and marriage prospects of all the Bennet sisters. Mr. Bennet and Mr. Gardiner attempt to find them, but it is ultimately Mr. Darcy who secretly intervenes. He tracks down Wickham and, at great personal expense and trouble, bribes Wickham to marry Lydia, ensuring her reputation and safeguarding the Bennet family's honor. He does this for Elizabeth's sake, without her knowledge. Once the truth of Darcy's intervention is revealed by Mrs. Gardiner, Elizabeth is overwhelmed with gratitude, humility, and a profound realization of Darcy's true character and his deep affection for her. Her prejudice is completely dismantled, replaced by respect and genuine love. Finally, Mr. Bingley returns to Netherfield and, with Darcy's support, proposes to Jane, who happily accepts. Lady Catherine de Bourgh, having heard rumors of Elizabeth and Darcy, makes an imperious visit to Longbourn, demanding that Elizabeth promise never to marry Darcy, whom she deems unworthy due to her family's connections. Elizabeth, with her characteristic wit and defiance, refuses to make such a promise. Darcy, hearing of this, is encouraged by Elizabeth's spirited defense of her right to choose. Darcy makes a second, humble and sincere proposal, having learned from his past errors. Elizabeth, now recognizing her own pride and prejudice, accepts him, finally embracing a love based on mutual respect, understanding, and genuine affection. The novel concludes with the marriages of Jane to Bingley and Elizabeth to Darcy, symbolizing the triumph of true love and self-awareness over societal pressures and personal flaws. Core narrative and analysis at the heart of Pride and Prejudice lies its titular theme, the intricate dance between pride and prejudice, which Austen so masterfully dissects. These are not static flaws but dynamic forces that shape perception, impede understanding, and ultimately must be overcome for genuine connection to flourish. Mr. Darcy initially embodies pride, stemming from his aristocratic background, immense wealth, and social standing. His aloofness at the Meryton Ball and his condescending remarks about Elizabeth's family are clear manifestations of this. He struggles to see beyond Elizabeth's perceived social inferiority and the vulgarity of her relatives. Yet Elizabeth, for all her intelligence and wit, is equally guilty of prejudice. Her quick judgments, particularly against Darcy, are based on first impressions and fueled by the deceptive charm of Wickham. Her pride in her own discernment, her belief in her ability to read character, ironically blinds her to the truth. When Darcy makes his first arrogant proposal, Elizabeth's rejection is a passionate outpouring of her entrenched prejudice, further aggravated by her belief that he ruined Jane's happiness and wronged Wickham. She tells him from the very beginning, "From the first moment, I may almost say, of my acquaintance with you, your manners, impressing me with the fullest belief of your arrogance, your conceit, and your selfish disdain of the feelings of others, were such as to form that groundwork of disapprobation on which succeeding events have built so immovable a dislike." The novel's genius lies in showing how both characters embark on a parallel journey of self-discovery, gradually dismantling their own biases. Darcy's pivotal letter explaining Wickham's true villainy and his own misguided attempts to protect Bingley forces Elizabeth to confront her blindness, partiality, prejudice, absurdity. She acknowledges, "How despicably have I acted, I who have prided myself on my discernment, I who have valued myself on my abilities to judge of others, how humiliating is this discovery." This moment of profound introspection is crucial. Similarly, Darcy's interactions with Elizabeth and his reflection on her accusations force him to temper his pride and reconsider his social prejudices, leading to a more humble and amiable demeanor. Austen also brilliantly illuminates the pervasive influence of social class and marriage. In Regency England, marriage was less about romantic love and more about economic security and social advancement, particularly for women. The plight of the Bennet daughters, whose estate is entailed to Mr. Collins, underscores this stark reality. Charlotte Lucas's pragmatic decision to marry the odious Mr. Collins for a comfortable home rather than love serves as a powerful foil to Elizabeth's ideals. Charlotte represents the painful compromises an intelligent woman of limited means often had to make. She states plainly, "I am not romantic, I never was. I ask only a comfortable home." This contrasts sharply with Elizabeth's unwavering commitment to marrying for genuine affection and mutual respect. She rejects Mr. Collins's offer and initially Darcy's because neither aligns with her vision of a companionate marriage. Her eventual union with Darcy is thus a triumph, not just of love, but of her refusal to compromise her integrity. Darcy, in turn, has to overcome his own class prejudice, recognizing Elizabeth's superior character despite her inferior connections. Their marriage signifies a merging of two worlds, not just two individuals, asserting that true worth transcends inherited status. The novel also serves as a biting social critique, subtly dissecting the follies and hypocrisies of Regency society. Austen uses sharp wit and irony to expose characters like Mrs. Bennet, with her incessant focus on marriage and social blunders, or the imperious Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who embodies aristocratic snobbery and meddlesome pride. For example, Lady Catherine's interrogation of Elizabeth regarding her potential marriage to Darcy, where she demands Elizabeth promises never to accept him, highlights the absurdity of class-based arrogance. Elizabeth's spirited refusal, "I am a gentleman's daughter," is a powerful assertion of individual agency against oppressive social norms. Austen's narrative style is a cornerstone of her literary merit. She is a master of free indirect discourse, a technique that allows the reader to access characters' thoughts and feelings as if directly but still through the narrator's voice. This provides deep psychological insight and allows for subtle irony. For instance, we often perceive events through Elizabeth's initial biased lens, only to have the narrator or subsequent revelations expose her misjudgments, inviting the reader to discern deeper meanings alongside Elizabeth. Her prose is precise, elegant, and witty, full of sharp observations that are never superfluous. Symbolism also plays a crucial role in the narrative. Pemberley, Darcy's magnificent estate, is perhaps the most prominent symbol. Elizabeth's visit to Pemberley is transformative. The estate, with its tasteful grounds and well-managed affairs, reflects Darcy's inherent good character, generosity, and responsibility, qualities that his proud demeanor initially obscured. Her favorable impression of Pemberley marks a turning point in her perception of him, as if the landscape itself is revealing his true nature. Letters are another vital symbolic and structural element. They serve not just as plot devices for conveying information, but as catalysts for introspection and truth. Darcy's letter to Elizabeth is the most significant example, systematically unraveling the web of deceit woven by Wickham and challenging Elizabeth's long-held prejudices. It allows for a form of communication that is more direct and honest than face-to-face conversations, often constrained by social etiquette. This exchange marks the moment when Elizabeth truly begins to see for the first time. Compared to authors like Tolstoy, who tackled grand historical narratives and profound philosophical questions across vast canvases in works like War and Peace, Austen meticulously crafted her stories within the intimate domestic sphere of the English gentry. While Tolstoy might explore the existential dilemmas of war and societal collapse, Austen focused on the inner battles of individuals grappling with social conventions, personal biases, and the universal quest for love and belonging. Her genius lies in finding universal truths within a seemingly narrow scope, proving that profound human drama can unfold just as powerfully in a drawing room as on a battlefield. The intricate character arcs and development in Pride and Prejudice are central to its lasting appeal. Elizabeth's journey from confident, albeit prejudiced, observer to self-aware, humbled protagonist is incredibly compelling. She learns the importance of looking beyond superficial appearances and challenging her own judgments. Darcy, too, undergoes a significant transformation, shedding his pride and learning humility, realizing that true worth lies not in social status but in integrity and character. Their parallel growth makes their eventual union feel earned and deeply satisfying, providing an aspirational model for personal evolution and relational development. Deep insight and reflection, Pride and Prejudice's profound humanistic and philosophical implications extend far beyond its Regency setting, offering timeless wisdom that resonates deeply with our contemporary world. The novel's central theme of overcoming pride and prejudice is perhaps more relevant today than ever before. In an age dominated by social media, where first impressions are often formed from carefully curated profiles and snap judgments are made based on limited information, the dangers of prejudice are amplified. We are constantly exposed to echo chambers that reinforce our existing biases, making it difficult to challenge our own assumptions or truly understand those with differing views. Consider how often we swipe left on someone based on a single image or a brief bio, much like Darcy initially dismissed Elizabeth at the ball, or how quickly we cancel individuals based on rumors or a carefully orchestrated narrative, echoing Elizabeth's initial credulity regarding Wickham's lies. Pride and Prejudice serves as a perennial cautionary tale, urging us to look beyond the surface, to question our knee-jerk reactions, and to seek genuine understanding. It reminds us that character is revealed not in a single glance, but through consistent action, thoughtful reflection, and genuine engagement. Furthermore, the novel's exploration of social class and its impact on relationships, while set in a different era, remains profoundly pertinent. While we may no longer have entailed estates, modern societies still grapple with significant economic disparities and social hierarchies. Wealth, profession, education, and even geographical location continue to influence dating pools, marriage prospects, and perceived social status. The pressures felt by Mrs. Bennet to secure advantageous marriages for her daughters find echoes in contemporary anxieties about financial stability, career success, and the desire to marry up or maintain a certain lifestyle. Elizabeth Bennet's independent spirit and her refusal to settle for a marriage without genuine love and respect continues to inspire female empowerment. In a world where women still navigate complex professional and personal landscapes, Elizabeth's assertiveness, intellectual curiosity, and unwavering integrity offer a powerful model. Her insistence on intellectual compatibility and emotional authenticity in a partner speaks to a universal desire for relationships grounded in mutual understanding, rather than solely external factors. The novel also poses profound philosophical questions about the nature of truth, perception, and self-knowledge. How do our internal biases shape our understanding of the world? Can we truly know another person without first confronting our own preconceptions? The journeys of Elizabeth and Darcy underscore that true virtue and happiness are found not in unwavering certainty, but in the humility to admit error, the courage to change, and the willingness to learn from experience. It's a powerful argument for introspection and the continuous process of personal growth throughout life. To encourage your own reflection on these enduring themes, here are some questions to consider. First impressions vs. true character. How often do you find yourself making firm judgments about people based on initial interactions or superficial information? What are the potential consequences of such quick judgments in your own life? Societal pressures on relationships. What contemporary societal expectations or economic necessities do you observe influencing people's choices in dating, marriage, or partnerships today? How do these compare to the pressures faced by characters in Pride and Prejudice? The role of pride and prejudice in conflict. Think about a conflict you've experienced. To what extent did your own pride or prejudice or that of the other person contribute to the misunderstanding? How could self-awareness have changed the outcome? Female agency. How does Elizabeth Bennet's approach to marriage and personal autonomy resonate with or challenge modern ideals of female independence and empowerment? What progress have women made and what challenges remain? Distinguishing appearance from reality. In an age of digital personas and curated images, how do you discern true character from mere appearance? What lessons can Pride and Prejudice offer in navigating this challenge? The evolution of a relationship. Elizabeth and Darcy's love develops through conflict and self-correction. Do you believe that true love requires overcoming significant obstacles and personal flaws? Why or why not? Austen's critique. Do you view Austen's work as a conservative reinforcement of social order or a subtle, even radical critique of it? What evidence from the novel supports your view? These questions remind us that Pride and Prejudice is not just a historical romance. It's a profound commentary on universal human struggles, encouraging us to look inward and to observe the world around us with greater nuance, empathy, and critical thought. It is a testament to Austen's genius that her observations, penned in a world so different from our own, remain so remarkably insightful and applicable to the complexities of modern life. Outro. As we conclude our journey through the elegant ballrooms and intricate social landscapes of Pride and Prejudice, one truth becomes abundantly clear. Jane Austen's genius transcends time. The novel's enduring literary merit lies in its exquisite craftsmanship, its witty prose, its pioneering use of narrative techniques like free indirect discourse, and its sophisticated social commentary. Austen's ability to create psychologically complex characters who evolve and learn, particularly Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy, secures its place as a classic of English literature. But its lasting popularity is rooted in something even more fundamental: the timeless resonance of its themes. The struggle to overcome our own pride and prejudice, the quest for genuine love amidst societal pressures, the importance of self-awareness and personal growth. These are universal human experiences that continue to captivate and challenge us today. Elizabeth's independent spirit and Darcy's journey to humility offer an aspirational model for navigating relationships and finding authenticity in a world that often values superficiality. Pride and Prejudice reminds us that true connection is forged through understanding, empathy, and a willingness to look beyond the surface. It is a story that encourages us to re-examine our first impressions, to question societal norms, and to bravely pursue a life and a love that is truly our own. If you've enjoyed delving into the world of Jane Austen, you might also enjoy exploring some of her other magnificent works. For a different take on societal pressures and personal judgment, consider Emma, which features another clever, yet sometimes misguided, heroine learning from her mistakes. If you're interested in a more somber, but equally insightful, exploration of second chances and societal pressures, Persuasion offers a beautiful narrative of enduring love. Or for a broader understanding of different temperaments and their social consequences, Sense and Sensibility provides a fascinating contrast between pragmatic reason and ardent emotion. For those interested in how these themes resonate beyond Austen's world, you might explore Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, which also critiques societal expectations around marriage and love, but through a far more tragic and expansive lens, highlighting the distinct cultural and philosophical landscapes between these two literary giants. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Pride and Prejudice. May it inspire you to always question your first impressions, to value integrity above all else, and to seek out connections that truly understand and celebrate your authentic self. What part of Pride and Prejudice resonates most with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more humanities insights, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world of literature and philosophy. Until next time, keep reading, keep thinking, and keep questioning.